let's work together and revisit your retaining of givers, often called donor retention. Okay, retaining your givers. This is absolutely your top stewardship priority when it comes to how you relate to people who've been giving to you in the past. This is critical. This is really actually probably the area that I see the greatest failures occur, is that we get busy, we're implementing all these different things, and we just fail to stop and really take a look at who's been giving to us in the past and how are we doing on keeping those people engaged as givers. And with time going by, oftentimes more rapidly than we realize, you can look up and somebody asks you to run a report, and you look and see and you go, wow, look at this tremendous amount of past support that has just kind of disappeared. Organizations tend to just bleed givers, ministries in particular. They just bleed givers. I think some of it's maybe because we're so focused on things that are good and busy, and we're helping people and we're working, and we forget that there's all these people that God has been using through their giving to move us forward. And it's often easier to focus on the new than it is to keep bringing people along and make sure that those relationships are growing. So at this point, you've really been equipped by us with a lot of skills, a lot of techniques. So we're revisiting some of those, and this one is the most important. How do we retain our givers? So I want to give you several specific steps, okay, to take, very practical. Number one, let's evaluate the givers that you must retain, okay? This is a list. Who are the people, and let's go back here. Who are the people from the beginning of the calendar year to now, at this point in the year, have given normally in this range of giving? Let's just look 1 year back. So last year, from the beginning of January 1 to date last year, who are the people that gave at that point, by that point? And compare that to people who have given to this point in the year, from the beginning of the year. Is this take some work? Absolutely. In fact, sometimes even databases don't run really good solid lists on this. It takes some really looking. It's baffling to me why this is so hard sometimes, but it is. It takes tending to these names and really taking a close look. So let's get this list. Let's look at this. And you need to see each name, and you need to see their previous giving, okay, the calendar year before to date, and you need to see the total giving represented by this list. Those are the three big things. And it's not unusual when you take a look at this, especially if some time's gone by since you've looked at that, it's not unusual for that to be rather shocking. But the great news is, don't get discouraged, because once you've looked at it, you are now seeing it. That's the first step of really shepherding these givers. So who are these people, and let's evaluate where they are. You need to see each name, their previous giving. You need to see the total giving that list represents, and that is what sharpens your focus, because that's going to show you there's this tremendous potential. And it could be 5 people, it could be 500 people, and believe me, I've actually seen some lists that long where literally years had gone by before anyone had actually looked at just this particular list. So if it's 5 people, if it's 500, it represents a real responsibility issue. And are you shepherding those people to know where you're going next? This group is also one of those, like your face-to-face prospect planning. You have to establish specific targets or ranges of giving. Even if you aren't putting those in writing to the giver, you need to know what those are. You need to be able to total up the strategic potential represented by that group, because that's going to focus you and it's going to focus your team. Even if it's volunteers, it's going to help them remember why this is important. Okay, so establish those ranges and then group that list according to the range of giving is one way to do it, or group them according to momentum, the way that we've taught you and talked about so often. Either way, that's going to help you prioritize your time. Now, here's the thing that very few people tell you. if you do well just with this group, your giving is going to go up. Think about that. If you retain everyone that's given in previous years, and you've thanked them well, reported well, and challenged them to stretch their giving yet again or more, why do more? Not because you need more, not because just you should give more, but because you're moving forward and you've got things that you cannot do, you have yet to do, and you need them thinking and praying about that. So there's huge potential just in this list. You can do everything else badly if you do this list. If you're looking for a way to prioritize your energy, this is it. Okay, so establish those ranges of giving. Group those people according to those ranges or according to momentum. And then evaluate their readiness to give. Remember how to do that? We've talked about it before. Have they been thanked and reported to on the impact of their giving? Do they clearly know your vision and your next steps? And do they understand what you're focusing on, what you're asking them to do? Have you introduced some sort of range of giving to them? If you can evaluate those three things, that's going to tell you what you need to do next. And then here's kind of the last couple of steps. You need to schedule those thanking and reporting actions. Okay, if they haven't given at this point, and you can think of why or understand why by looking at them, you have to make sure that you are scheduling specific steps to take to thank them well and report on their giving and move them forward. And you can do that face-to-face. Obviously, that's most effective, but there are other ways here too. So let me give you some practical ways. You can send them an email or a letter thanking them and reporting that to them. Basically, you're saying to them, I see you, and oftentimes that just clues them in. Oh yeah, we're connected here. They're aware of us and where we are. So thanking and reporting. You can email them or send them a letter. Personally calling them, or someone personally calling them, calling attention to what you say. You're not calling and asking them for anything, but you're saying, we sent you a really important report on the impact of your giving. You've been very involved this previous year. We're so grateful. Wanted to make sure you saw that report and took the time to read it. I think you'll be blessed if you do. And then, depending on how you prioritize, face-to-face meetings with those key givers or at-risk givers that, maybe there's some things going on. Don't shy away from discomfort, okay? These people are easier to keep involved than anything else that you can be doing. You will be stunned at how God blesses these efforts. So don't shy away from uncomfortable conversations. Step into them. Help people see the impact of what they've been doing in the previous year and why their involvement right now is so important. And then follow up to those meetings. You can follow up with a simple executive summary, with a request to give, and then follow up, like we've talked about, okay? Is this complicated? Is it rocket science? No. Does it take some discipline and diligence and time? Yes. But if you can understand that this is your top priority, shepherding, stewarding the relationships with people that God has given you is so, so important. So, what's the why going on here? Why is this so important? I made a note here, because this is critical. Imagine for a minute, how hard it is going to be if next year these people still aren't giving. Okay, imagine yourself having to call them or meet with them and say, I noticed you haven't given in now 18 months or a couple of years. Imagine how uncomfortable that's going to be and what could all be going on. Imagine the resistance you're going to have emotionally to picking up that phone and calling them. Okay, that's hard. Compare that, if you can imagine that, compare that to how easy it is right now to call, to communicate and say, thank you again so much for your giving this past year. It's made a difference. It's brought us to where we are at this point. God is using that. I just want to make sure that you'd really heard from us and that you really had been reported to on the impact of your giving. And I want you to know a little bit about where we're going, because we're really hoping that God will continue to use you and lead you to give this year, okay? Neither of those are going to be easy, but if you can imagine the more time that goes by, how hard this gets. It will never, listen to me carefully here, this is what you need to hear. It will never be easier to regain one of those givers than right now. It will never be easier. So I want you to really think about revisiting your efforts to regain your donors. Know who these people are. Have your strategies in place. Understand that this is the most important thing that you could be doing. And know it only gets harder. So do it now. Do the work now at its easiest point, rather than doing it later at its hardest point. I look forward to seeing how God uses this in a very important principle. Thank you.